If you're considering homeschooling your kids and pulling them out of public school, you need to watch this video first. I'm going to break down the pros and cons of homeschooling versus public schooling, so that way you can make an informed decision that's best for your child and your family. Hi friends, my name is Micah Klug, and I love helping mothers strengthen their home, their faith, and their family. Over the last couple of years, homeschooling has become more and more popular for parents. There's been a transformative experience happening with the public school system, whether it's teachers, curriculum, education choices, whatever it might be, and the thing that must not be named changed everything with that. So let's talk about the benefits of homeschooling and public schooling. Just to let you know, I have 5 children, as of right now, all under the age of 9. One of my children went through the public school system, and I want to share a story about that experience and what led my family to decide that homeschooling was best for us. And I hope it helps you with the decision that you have to make. All right, first we're going to talk about homeschooling, the pros and cons. Then we'll talk about the public school pros and cons. So homeschooling, one of the pros is you have more control of what your child learns. Something that my family and I do is we don't teach by grades. So my son, who went to the dentist the other day, the doctor asked him, well, what grade are you in? And bless my son's heart, he just kind of looked and was like, second, third, fourth. And it reminded me of that. Do you remember that old Johnny Cash song where the storyline goes where he's stealing the different parts to a car and it's, 1978, 69, 70 automobile, like that? I felt like my son was living that song. And the reason for that is we don't teach by grade like the traditional public school do. What we do is we teach them by level. So my son, for example, absolutely loves math. Like, he has an engineer's brain. So he's performing math at that 4th, 5th grade level, even though he's only 7 years old. So in math, he's doing levels 5 and almost 6, where in reading and writing, and to help him build up his comprehension and retention, he's performing on about level 2 and 3, right with his age group. And the opposite is about true for my daughter, where she loves reading and writing, and we're working with her to build up her retention. And she's excelling to the point where she is performing nearly at a college level as a 9-year-old. But math is just right on par with the rest of her peers in her age group. I think if it was up to her, she would probably abolish fractions. She's not the biggest fan of them, but then again, I don't know who is. Reason number 2 why we homeschool is that it teaches children responsibility and accountability. Each child has a set number of pages or work that they have to complete in the morning. And be sure to leave a comment below if you would like me to discuss kind of what our homeschool schedule looks like and how I organize the day so the kids get their assignments done that they need to. But in just a generalized term, what we do in the morning is we have them do their book work. They do their pages for their reading, they do their pages for their writing, their math, social studies, science. Then we usually take a lunch break for an hour, and then afternoon is what they want to learn. It's, I don't want to call it free time because it's not free for them. They are very much learning, they're reading, but it's interest-led based on what they want to do. So, for example, if one of our children wanted to start a YouTube channel, that is something that they would learn. They would learn the ins and outs of, creating a video, editing a video, keyword research, all sorts of everything that goes into doing a YouTube video. If one of our children wanted to learn about the mechanics behind robots, then by all means, we would get them the resources and the materials that they needed to learn, and even a project kit so they could build their own robot if that's what they needed. Something obviously agreeing with their age level. And then the fun thing, while we still have really little ones at home, we have 3 under the age of 6. 2 of them are under the age of 4, so about 2 years apart. But while they're really little, they're obviously learning through play. They're learning the skills to get along. They're learning how compromising. They're learning what they need to do to interact with the world around them and with the people around them. So the biggest drawback from homeschooling that I hear all the time, and you'll have to click the like button if you've heard it too, is what about socialization? My friend, can I tell you that my children have never socialized more in their entire life ever since homeschooling them. They talk to everybody. I'm pretty sure they talk to the people that don't want to be spoken to as well, but you know, those sweet people, they smile at these sweet children and they'll nod their heads and they'll say a few words and then they go on with their day. It's fantastic. These sweet people, bless their hearts. But my daughter, she goes to ballet. She's in dance class. My son is doing BMX racing. My other son does art. He plays in play groups. My daughter and my toddler, they have more friends than, goodness, I'm hiding chocolate in the pantry. Like, they're socializing. And I think one of the paradigm shifts that have to happen is people that haven't had the opportunity to homeschool or to be around a homeschooling family, is their thoughts is, you know, maybe people, homeschooling families stay inside all day, huddled up, you know, curtains closed, hiding in the dark, whatever it might be, under a blanket. And that is not the case. As soon as the weather gets warm, and even if it gets cold, the kids are outside. They're playing, they're exploring, they're playing in the snow. They're out in nature walks with friends. They're exploring the world around them. They're hiking, they're climbing, they're going to museums, they're going to exhibits. They are out and in the world and they are socializing. So I feel bad putting socialization as a con, but I wanted to put it here as well to open up that discussion, to say that it is still perceived as a drawback, but yet it is one of the most rewarding experiences from homeschooling. But in that regard, depending on the state that you live in and the community that you're in, sometimes finding those socializations are difficult for children. You might be in a small community, you might be in a community that has really strict homeschooling laws. So in those regards, I can understand why having your child socialize would prove to be difficult or be a bit more challenging to find those groups. But I do hope you are utilizing social media websites and different public events and venues in your area, or at least in a neighboring city that tends to be a bit larger. So that way you can make those interactions and set those appointments up for your children. Now let's talk about the public school. One of the benefits about public school is that children are in a classroom with others their age, and each child comes from all walks of life. Every one of them has a story. Every one of them has different life experiences. Another benefit to children being in a public school is that you have that rhythmic system where you know from 8:30 to 3:15 your child is in this location with this teacher, and they are where they're supposed to be, and they're having lunch at 11:30, and they're having recess from this time and this time, and Monday, Wednesday, and Friday is music, and Tuesday and Thursdays are PEs. It's more for a parental peace of mind that you know where your child is at or should be at every moment of every day. Now let's talk about some of the drawbacks of public school system. One drawback to the public school system is the education level might not be what your child needs. Your child could be performing at a higher level, or maybe your child learns and has a different learning capability than just the structural classroom setting. There are so many learning styles for children, and not all of them are met through the public education system, and that's something that needs to be addressed. For example, my two oldest, they are textbook learners. They sit down, they read, they learn, they explore. So when my third came along and I started homeschooling him, I quickly found out that he was a visual learner. He was not by any means a textbook learner. He had to see things. He did really well with Play-Doh. Oh my God, if you're not using Play-Doh for homeschooling, please use Play-Doh. And leave a comment and let me know if you need my Play-Doh recipe. I will be happy to share it. But my third son loves visuals. He used Play-Doh, he used blocks, he used Legos, and it helped him with his counting. He would play a game called Soldiers, and he would line up the different Lego blocks for his math problem. So, 5 soldiers plus 2 more come to help equals 7 soldiers. And that's how he would do his math, and he would physically hold the pieces and he would count them. Where if I gave him a sheet of math and said, here, do it without no help, he would sit there and he would just stare at the page. He didn't know what to do. And so knowing that not every learning style is catered in the public school system is something for you to be aware of. Can you give what your child needs? And if you can, consider that option to homeschool. There are so many resources, printables, curriculums, online activities that it's almost impossible to not homeschool and have that option. All you need is to know what resources your child needs. The second drawback to having your child in the public school system could be just the simple overwhelm of everything. So when my oldest, was getting ready for kindergarten, she was so excited. We got her one of those little chalkboard pictures and she wrote her name on it and she wrote all the information. We dropped her out, we took her to school, we stayed with her, we waved at her until she went in their classroom. I mean, it was like the picture perfect, like mama heart, guilt feeling, heartbreaking. Like we've spent every waking day with her for the first 5 years and now we're leaving her basically to go to an 8 to 5 job. And she came home that first day and she was so exhausted, you guys. Just falling asleep in the car, completely miserable. I think we got her to stay awake long enough to eat a little bit of food, and she went to bed the next morning and she woke up just as tired. And yes, it was all day kindergarten. I apologize for not disclosing that. But the next day, I tried to drop her off, and it was a complete meltdown. She dug her heels and she did not want to go. Sometimes children aren't ready for that high demand. And this is the same schedule and demand that we give to adults to go and work at 8. We expect adults to go and work 8 hours a day, 40 hours a week. And yet we're putting that same schedule, sometimes even longer, with morning activities, after school activities. We're putting a heavier schedule on small children as they're growing and developing their minds, and we're taking them out of the home and away from their families and putting that heavy load on them and saying, okay, function, not just function, but thrive and, perform and do all these things and take all these tests. And it just gets too much. It is just too much for these little minds. And as they grow, yet they do learn to adapt. For example, I know I was raised in the public school system. I was up at 5 every morning. I was at school on campus at 6:30 every morning. And I got home about 3:34. And then I did homework and I went to bed and the day repeated itself. And when it comes to the public school system, there's no one size fits all. Sometimes you have to take a look at your neighborhood and see what your public school is like. How does your elementary school rank? How does your middle school rank? How does your high school rank? And make the most informed decision for your family. So, summarizing everything, benefits and drawbacks to homeschooling versus public school life. Homeschooling, there's a lot more flexibility. You do it on your own schedule. There's a lot more educational freedom. There are tons of resources. Yes, sometimes it feels like you have less time for yourself and less time to pursue those self-interests that you have. But at the same time, having these children, it makes it about them. You're helping to lay the foundation for the rest of their lives. And that's something that only you can do. With homeschooling your children, you're giving them the tools that they need, not only just to teach them how to do fractions or, how to do a theory or an equation, but you're teaching them also about money management, about grocery shopping, about how to thrive and succeed as a good, responsible adult. Your homeschooling is more than just educating and enriching your child's mind. It's teaching them and laying the foundation for building a successful life after they leave home. Benefits and drawback to public school. There's a lot. Children have the opportunity to meet other children, but even then, in the public school setting, something that you have to consider doing is, even though they're surrounded by children for 8+ hours a day, how much of that is them talking versus sitting at a desk, sitting for long periods of time, just listening to a teacher talk. Again, something that you want to consider is your child's learning abilities and styles. Are they learning in a way that they thrive on a lecture-based learning? If so, public school might be for them. But if not, then consider the option of jumping in to homeschooling. If you have any questions on how to start homeschooling or need any help, please leave a comment down below. I am more than happy to help answer your questions. Also, you'll find in the description box different free printables, resources, and curriculums that'll help you get started in your homeschooling journey. Be sure to subscribe for more fun family activities. You can also check the description box below where you'll find free printables, resources, curriculums, and other helps to help you strengthen your home and teach your children.